Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this roundtable about circular consumers. My name is Elisa Casazza. I work at CSR Europe, and I will be your moderator for today. First of all, I have to apologize with you. We are starting with a slight delay. Unfortunately, we had a few technical issues, but I hope you are still there, still here with us, despite the late start. Olas, can you please go to the next slide, please? Today we have a very rich program prepared for you. The topic of today is circular consumption, so how we can provide meaningful information to consumers about the circularity level of products to engage them in the circularity transition. And I'm very glad today to have with us three amazing speakers, three company representatives that will tell us more about their experience with the transition to circular economy. So I would like to already welcome Nicola Tagliaferro from Enel, Yves Nissim from Orange, and Philippe Weiler from Lidl. We will hear from them their experience with circularity and their challenges in engaging consumers. After that, I need to apologize again. Unfortunately, Paola Migliorini from the European Commission today will not be able to be with us due to unforeseen circumstances. She apologizes and she hopes to be able to reconnect after this meeting. I'm sure we will organize new meetings, new webinars with Paola so she can better explain us the Commission plans. After the presentations and after the panel discussion, it will be the moment for you to send us your comments and questions. You can do it through the chat section that you see on the right side of your screen, and we will try to reply and as many as we can due to the time constraints. And after that, quick conclusions and next steps regarding the other events on circular economy that are part of the European SDG Summit. Olas, if you can please move on. Yeah, just a very short introduction from my side about CSR Europe. Many of you might already be familiar with our network. We are a business network that works on corporate responsibility. So together with our corporate members and national partner organizations, we try to push forward the sustainability agenda in Europe. Next slide, please, Olas. Our work is quite broad, so when we speak about sustainability, we refer to a very wide spectrum of topics. That's why we divide them into three different work streams: the people, markets and materials. Today, this webinar is part of our materials work, so all those projects and activities that deal with supply chain and circular economy. So that's why I am particularly happy to have this opportunity with our speakers and together with you today to explore further this topic. Now, Olas, if you can move on. Now I would like to immediately start the panel discussion, and I would like to very quickly give the floor to Nicola Tagliaferro. Nicola is the Global Head of Sustainability of Enel. Unfortunately, Nicola will not be able to be with us most probably until the end of the event. That's why I encourage you to already write the questions if you have any for him in the chat. But I'm really happy that Nicola is able to be with us for this introduction. I really appreciate your time and participation, and I look forward to hear more from you about how Enel is approaching sustainability, is approaching circularity, and how you are engaging your customers. So Nicola, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Elisa, and thank you, CSR Europe, for these opportunities and to discuss and to open discussion panels regarding circular economy and in particular circular consumers. We are very close to this topic. Enel in particular and the entire Enel group is working on circular economy since many years. We've started working on methodology, trying to understand the concrete application of circular economy many years ago. And for us is very important that now the stage is enough mature to discuss and to go deeply into this specific subject. I want to before starting the slides, I want to just to introduce NLX, because NLX is part of the Enel group. Enel group is leading worldwide utilities, and NLX is now a startup within the Enel group, working on everything that is connected to the new concept of energy, with everything that is connected to innovation within the energy sector, with of course with relation to electric mobility. It's connected, of course, to all the decarbonization process of companies, of public administrations, and final consumers. So that's why, first of all, I would like to introduce, going next in the next slide, immediately as a first topic of today, the concept of circular consumers. We know that this is a very new concept, but we want to use this stage to start to share with you what we think is now becoming and what is the profile of the circular consumers. Of course, this is only a beginning of the process. This profile is going to be analyzed more and more, and to see how in the next years this consumer is going to perimeterize completely. What we can see from this chart is how the circular consumer is working on the 5 business models of the circular economy, because it's important to start from the definition of the World Economic Forum of the circular economy, and what we see within this definition is the application of 5 business models, and we try to understand how the consumer apply those business models, and what are now the micro communities that are currently starting to grow within the market. For example, there are consumers connected to the sustainable input, and for sustainable input we mean everything which is connected with for example, and this is just one of the main of the several examples, for example, connected to the renewable energy production. So that, for example, is connected to the electric mobility. So this is a typical application of this. This is a typical application of this business model. Then we have in product as a service, which is another business model of the circular economy. There are consumers interested in reducing their initial investments. For example, IKEA is starting to apply also for consumers this model. Philips with the lighting. We have also the application of the sharing business model, and this is clear to all of us. In big cities, we have, for example, car sharing, bike sharing, scooter sharing, and this is becoming more and more clear for everyone, and young people are strongly using this business model. Recycling and reuse is becoming more and more in a habit for many consumers, and there are big brands like Nike, for example, that is starting to engage clients in this kind of process. And finally, we have also the life extension business model. And in this life extension, there are in some cases, in particular, connected to the regeneration and the repairable of products and goods that is taking more and more attention from consumers. In all of those business models, what we can see that there is a strong interest from the consumers in saving money. So the circular consumer is environmentally friendly from one side, but from the other side is looking for saving money. And all those business models allow the consumer to save money. Installing a photovoltaic plant in our home is giving us the possibility to save money on our electricity bill. If we take a product in product as a service, rather than buying and own directly the product, we are saving money. If we take a car sharing rather than buy a car, we are saving money. And if we are regenerating our iPhone, we are saving money in the same time. So this is an important starting point we wanted to share with you before starting on the next slide and discussing in particular on what is the NLX approach to the circular economy. Our innovative approach is called Circular Economy Boosting Program and sees NLX at the center of the 5 business models of circular economy, because every operator has a different role within the circular economy, and the role of NLX, considering that NLX is a solution provider, we are an accelerator, booster of the circular economy, and we are this accelerator both let's say within the ecosystem of all stakeholders that is and work around NLX. This ecosystem is a citizen, is public administration, is suppliers, is final consumers, is our technical agent. So is everyone that is working and is touching the world of Enel. How we apply the circular economy on a very concrete way. We apply, first of all, measuring the level of circularity of our products and services, because we wanted to demonstrate, and we believe that this is the right trend that is now actually becoming a reality on the market. We are now measuring our product and scoring our products. And in the same time, we are supporting companies through a methodology that is going to measure the level of circular economy of companies, making them understand what is their circularity level, and so circular maturity, and then activate with them a roadmap for improvement. If we go on the next slide, we see, for example, this is just an example of the score of our score that measure the circular economy level applied to one of our main products, which is the electric vehicle charging. The name is the Juice Pool, and we are now applying this methodology that is going to show what is the level of circular economy, but also how that specific solution is going to cross the 5 business models, understanding which are impacted and which are not impacted. If we go on the next slide, we see also the boosting program we apply on it, because measuring is not the only reason why we are doing all this work, but the measurement is only the starting point to improve ourselves. We want to improve the level of circularity that specific solution has, and how, for example, we did with this specific solution. For example, we decided to change the case from a normal plastic case in a recycled plastic case, and this using internal plastic we recovered from other process. So another example is the recovery of spare parts during the maintenance process. Those are all solutions we identified during what we called boosting program. So we enter deeply into that solution, we analyze that solution in all the value chain, and then after that, we started to apply those projects to improve the level of circularity. If we go on the next slide, we see the approach we have for companies, and we measure the companies on two different points of view. One is the corporate one. So we analyze completely the level of circularity of a company, looking at their policies from procurement, waste, logistic, energy, of course. So everything that is connected to the world of the company. And then we also analyze from an energy perspective. So we do a deep dive specifically on the energy circularity, and then we identify with them a roadmap for improvement. If we go on the next slide, an example of this roadmap, for example, in parallel as we showed for the product, this is now the case for applied to the boosting program applied to companies. We applied the boosting, the circular economy boosting program. And for example, the solution of renewable energy, monitoring system, remote control, electric mobilities are just some examples of how we are able to boost the circularity of our clients, which can be public administration or business. Finally, we go through the last slide, where we, after all this journey we had in terms of circular economy applied to products and applied to business. Just what we hope for the future is that we could really be able to jump from, of course, if we click on the next, from a linear economy to a circular economy. So this is what we are working to do, and what we hope that all the system and all the economy will go and will enter soon.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you for this excellent presentation. There are many takeaways that I wrote down. I was writing down keywords while you were talking, and there are a lot of things that resonate with also the work we do and what we will discuss throughout this event. Especially, I want to highlight this interest for saving money. That's always very important to underline. Consumers also obviously care about sustainability, but there is also that element of affordability and saving money that is very important. I know that other speakers today of the panel will expand this topic. I will also come back to the 5 circular business model, because indeed it's something that we apply as well in our work. And then finally, this really is importance to measure the current circularity level as a starting point to then transition and boost. So the importance of metrics and measurement and methodologies to measures in order to be able to improve. So I think you really gave a very broad overview and a very clear overview. I'm looking at the chat to see if there is any question for you right now. Otherwise, if you still have a few minutes, I will follow up with the question I have for you. That is a question linked more to your challenges. You said that in your customers you have public authorities, you have other companies. What was the biggest challenge in communicating circularity to them, and how did you overcome it?
Yes, the main challenge was, of course, the credibility of the methodology, because we know that there are many attempts in terms of methodology. So first of all, we need to invest and concentrate on the credibility. The way how we work on credibility was trying to work with very credible partners, certificators, and first of all, to validate this methodology, to improve this methodology. And in the same time, we also started an accreditation process. So we wanted to be as more recognized as possible in terms of credibility and the value and real value for this methodology. So we put our work and our methodology on the very institutional and important tables. We need to be able to be modified, to be improved, to answer to the real needs of consumers. Traceability, transparency, and credibility.
Very good, perfect. I think we can conclude with these 3 keywords. The message, I think, was very clear. So thank you so much, Nicola. I know you have to go to another commitment. So thank you again, really, for your time and for your efforts in being here today. And I hope we will have other opportunities in the next months to explore with you this very interesting topic.
Absolutely, Kuni. Thank you again. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, CSR Europe, and of course, Kuni, we are available to answer if there is any questions to any specific questions. So thanks very much, and apologize again for my needs to leave in advance.
No problem at all.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye to everyone.
Thank you. Now, Ola, if we can get back to the presentation, I now would like actually to take a step back and maybe give us a short introduction about CSR Europe and our work on circularity, because many things and many of the topics that Nicola has highlighted will come back, and I would like to expand them a little bit. Our work on circularity started in 2016, and we started thanks to a project that was funded by the European Commission that was called R2Pi, Transition from Linear to Circular. This project is now over, but we think the learnings from it are still relevant. So I do encourage you to go and check the website of the project, where you will be able to find all our learnings in terms of business guidelines and policy recommendations. So the objective of this project was really to analyze circular business models and try to highlight which are the main barriers and the main drivers that companies are facing today in the transition. That's why we did a number of case studies with companies that are currently implementing a circular business model. You see here on the slide some of their names. So we work with companies like Canon, Philips, Inditex, TerraCycle, and then many others. So a mix of big companies and small companies. And we ask them what are the elements that are currently hindering their transition and what instead is helping them in moving forward. On the basis of this, we put together indeed business guidance and policy recommendations that are available online, and that should help Europe to mainstream and to accelerate the transition. Now, let's see if you can move the slide. Yeah. And here I can show you what this project meant as circular economy and as circular business model. This a bit reconnects to what Nicola was saying about the 5 business model. Indeed, there are different definitions of circularity, so many organizations have slightly different definitions. In our case, we were talking about 7 business models of circularity, but I think that what is important to underline and what is the most important element is that we always take into consideration the whole life cycle of a product. It doesn't really matter if we're talking about 5 business model or 7 business model. What is important is that circular economy does not have to be limited to the end of life. So as long as we take into consideration the whole life cycle, then these are only minor variations in the terminology. Let's see if you can move on. Yes. And in this slide, and what I wanted to highlight here is that in all our interviews that we conducted during the project, we asked companies, what are your challenges? What is that is hindering your transition? And of course, many issues popped up, and we categorized them in these 4 main clusters. So obviously there are cost issues. Circularity is not always the most affordable option. Many times it's difficult for a company to make it profitable. This can be due to many topics, such as, for instance, the fact that primary raw materials are less expensive than secondary raw materials, and so on and so forth. We could do a full webinar only on this. Then other issues are linked to the inertia, the fact that it's difficult to change, it's difficult to innovate, this especially in big companies, so it's difficult to break the habits of different departments of the management. Then we also have problems of managerial coordination. This refers to the difficulty of changing the way of working, especially along the value chain, such as, for instance, creating a new system of reverse logistics or new partnership with others. So there are a lot of internal barriers linked to that. And then finally, what literally everybody told us, every company in every sector and from every country of Europe, is there are consumers issues. There are consumers issues, meaning we have a lack of consumer demand. And now let's see if you can move on to the next slide. And for instance, here in this slide, I really copy-pasted a sentence from one of our reports. So this is a case study report from the interview we had with Group SEB. Group SEB is a multinational company that does home appliances. And what they told us is, actually, customers are not willing to pay more for products that contain recycled materials. And this is because our customers think that these products are worse, are not as good in quality and performance and products that contain only virgin materials. And now, Olas, if you can move to the next slide. And this, I think, is very much in line with also another research that was funded and promoted by the European Commission that you see here on the screen. So, behavioral study on consumers' engagement in the circular economy. This is a research that was published in 2018 and that found that consumers are willing to engage in circular economy, but going from the theory to the practice is actually quite difficult. So the actual engagement is low. And the reason of this low engagement is that, for instance, the consumers don't have information regarding product durability and repairability. And this connects quite nicely to what Nicola was explaining about the importance of transparency, of methodologies to measure the circularity in order to be able to provide meaningful information to your customers. And then the second point that this research highlights is the lack of sufficiently developed markets, such as, for instance, the market for second-hand products, among others, but also the renting, leasing, sharing services, etc. So what I would like to do today with our two panelists is to ask ourselves if this is still true today. So all this data and information that I showed here is a bit old, now is from 2 years ago at least. So my question for the panelists, but also for all of you, is this still true today? Where are we today in this transition? So now, Olas, if you can move to the next slide. And this is why, to discuss this, but also in general, the approach to circular economy, I'm now particularly happy to introduce now Yves Nissim, Vice President, Head of Transformation and Operation in CSR of Orange. Yves will give us an overview of Orange approach to circular economy. And also, I've heard you recently started to be active in the second-hand market, so I'm sure you will mention that as well. So Yves, thank you very much for being here. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for the invitation. I will try to let you enter into the telecommunication world and demonstrate that circular economy for us is a real revolution, in the sense that marketing issues in terms of for telco was very not circular. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, you used to change your telephone, and I'm taking the example of the telephone because this is something important for everybody. You used to change it every 18 months or every 2 years, and to do that, you needed to sign again with a telco for a couple of years. Okay, this was the main marketing model of a telco for retention or for captation of new customers. So you understand that this was the basic of our marketing, and this is absolutely not circular. What we are changing, and this has been introduced a year ago now into our new strategy that is to be made between 2020 and 2025, is to introduce circular economy in all the steps of our business, our marketing, our conception, our sales, everything. And this is what I want to present to you today. I started with the telephones. We're not making them, we're just selling them. So you understand the difficult situation into the discussion we are entering with the makers of the telephones, asking them to make them recyclable, to make them last long, to be able to repair them, to be able to refurbish them completely, to put them back on the market with a certification, you understand that the type of conversation have evolved a lot in the last few years. So let me enter now into the details of our circular economy plans. It respects the 4 R's of circular economy: eco-conceive, restore, repair, recycle. And I will do that taking an example the mobile telephone, but I will also speak about the main issues for us, which are not the telephones, but the network equipments. And you will see that even a full network can be completely reused in another geography and work very well when it is certified by the maker. Okay, so first part of the process is to look at our products and services. To be circular, what we decided is to remove in all the packaging of our product and services all the plastic. And what we need to do is to go from what we're doing now, 28% less plastic, to 100% less plastic, which means zero plastic in the packaging. Then on collected mobile, let me open the discussion with the collected mobile. We distribute them, and we're trying to get them back from our customers. If I address my question to you and ask you to open your drawers at home, I am sure you will have 4 or 5 old telephones that are just sitting there, maybe to be used if you have a problem with the one you are using, maybe to be given to your kids when they will be old enough to use a telephone. Wrong decision. In any case, it's a wrong decision, because the different evolution of the telephones makes that the telephone you have in your drawer will be obsolete very soon. That if you want one day to give a telephone to your teenage, not your kids, but to your teenage or to your older son or daughter, you better give them the newest technology so that they will be safer and more affordable. When you do the count of all the telephones that are sitting inside your drawers, you're getting most of the resources of gold, of copper, of tin, of zinc that is on the planet that is sitting in your drawers. So one of the main issue for us is try to get back those telephones. And we have a challenge to get 30% of whatever we put on the market by 2025. It doesn't sound a lot, but you should know that there are many different ways to give away your telephone, and all the telephones we are putting on the market do not come back to Orange all the time. And so it is difficult. And then Orange is not only operating in France, in Europe, but it also operates in Africa and Middle East. And we have 29 countries around the world. 19 of them are located in Africa and Middle East. And you know that in this area, there is a second-hand market going everywhere. So many times the telephones have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lives, and that are completely outside of our view, but still we are trying to collect 30% of them. Another goal we do have is to collect all the home equipment that we are putting on the market. These equipment we are building, most of them, so it's a lot easier. So that the goal is not 30%, it's 90%. We need to recover all the home equipment. I'm talking about the box, the STB for the television, the Wi-Fi connectors, Internet of Things, all the things that are internet connected, all those equipments, we are trying to collect back 90% of them by 2025, and of course have a recycle environment to be able to refurbish them and put them back on the market. Most of our live box that you do know, if you have a contract with a telco, we do offer a live box. It's a box to be able to connect to internet and to have all those nice services. We are collecting today most of them back, and we are putting them back on the market with actually not even the customer knowing it. It's not visible. It's often just a cleaning and a new test, and we are putting them back on the market. I heard you, Elisa, saying that a company like Seb was saying that the customers think that a second-hand equipment doesn't work as well as a new one, which is completely not true. If a serious company put back on the market equipment which has been revisited, refurbished, revalidated, and reinsured, I'm telling you clearly that the lasting time of the equipment is equivalent, even better than a new one. So definitely. So this is for our own equipment. Okay, so that was for just trying to collect back things. The next step is to try to repair them. It was not, we're not trying to do that in the company, but we've developed the facility, and we are aiming to have a repair shop in all our shops around the world. We have orange shops everywhere. I mean, this is the basic of our customer relation. We will open, especially in Europe, repair area in all the shops. Okay, once you have repaired them, you need to recertify them and eventually connect with a supplier to do that if necessary. But in any case, with all the repair device we have been able to do, we will put them back on the market. Okay, so here is a big change of paradigm in terms of what we are serving to our customers. We will propose second-hand devices, like you said, Elisa, and this is true for the moment in all the European countries in which we operate, which is France, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, and Belgium. Okay, we will propose second-hand equipment, which are really good deals. If I take the example of the iPhones, you can easily divide by 2 the price of the iPhone and still get a long-lasting device in your hands, and the last generation also in your hands. Okay. Same with the equipment of the telco, which is on the ground, the network equipment. These are very expensive equipment. They're supposed to last up to 7 years. But what is happening is that we are changing generation every 4 or 5 years. And you've probably heard about the 5G coming on the market, which means that if we do install 5G as much as we can, because this is, the opening of the future demand of our customer, which are asking for more and more bandwidth, which means that we will recollect quite a few equipment on the market, and we can eventually reuse them. We have opened a platform that is open to first orange countries, but recently has opened also to all other telco, where you can put on the platform your network equipments and have them refurbished and recertified by the maker. This is very important. An Ericsson router needs to be recertified by Ericsson to be able to be put down on the ground in a different geography. So we are working on that, and we have now this platform of equipment. We can rebuild a full network in a country which is just starting in terms of network, mobile network. In all the new countries who doesn't have any internet connection or just have a 2G connection, we can rebuild a 3G or a 4G connection or a brand new 5G connection, and we can find those equipments in this platform. This is called the OSCAR program, and this is probably one of the things we are the most proud of, because really the long-lasting life of equipments will really be used. As I said, an equipment should be able to live over 7 to 10 years, and if the technology is evolving, it doesn't mean that all the world needs the brand new technology, but they can use 4G. I mean, we've experienced the confinement period of 3 months. With 4G, we were able to serve all our customers with an extensive use of the network, and really the 4G was okay. So it's something that can be used and reused, especially in country who doesn't have any good connection. So this is the program. It's as I told you, it's a revolution within the telco business. It needs really to change the way of understanding the relation with a customer, not to have them, hooked to us for 2 years every time they buy a product from us, but really leave them free to choose their telco, offer them second-hand equipment that are affordable, and make sure that they stay with us, that we can retain them because we are the best one, and not because we are offering very nice new iPhones or Samsungs. Okay, so this was my presentation, Elisa, and of course I'm ready for more if there is questions about it.
Thank you so much, Yves. As you said, a real revolution in the sector. That's why I was so happy to invite you to this roundtable, and I was so happy when you accepted. Your presentation was very rich, many things to unpack. As you said, the change in the retention model, the improving the collection for the importance of the raw materials as well. That connects also to the other topic of due diligence and human rights. There are many things connected to that, not only circularity. Is the importance of the repair shop extraordinary. I really look forward to that. That looks like a great idea. The new refurbished equipment, the second-hand devices, and then this Oscar program. If you want to also put the link in the chat for our participants, you can. I encourage you to do that because I think it would be useful for the participants to have the reference to all the things you have mentioned in this presentation.
Okay.
Then I will like to move on to our next presenter. So we change industry, but we will be back to Yves for the panel discussion after this presentation. But for the moment, we change completely sector, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Philippe Weiler, Head of Sustainability Lidl Belgium and Luxembourg, that will give us a very different perspective about how to engage your consumers in sustainability. So not necessarily on circularity only, but let's broaden a bit the scope, and also maybe how to engage your suppliers in order to make the consumer's choices easier. So Philippe, thank you very much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So indeed, I mean, Elisa, you started with at the beginning, is the consumer ready to pay more? Is he willing to pay more for a circular product? And the conclusion is yes, he's willing to pay more. But is he really doing it? And that's what I would like to explain with two examples, two case studies, two stories, where we have realized that actually the consumer is not ready at all to act upon what he says he wants to do. So the first example, if you move to the next slide, let me see which one of the two examples I've started. This is Erik de Winter. Erik de Winter is our tomato farmer from the province of Antwerp. Lidl Belgium has been active in Belgium 25 years. And we have been working with Erik de Winter already 25 years. So this means that since the beginning, we have a relationship with this man. 90% of the tomatoes that we sell are coming from this farmer. And 90% of the tomatoes that he produces are going back to Lidl. So this means that we have been able to develop a long-term relationship with him. And a long-term relationship means, by definition, that there is a trust. And because of that trust, he decided to also invest in his own business. Because we all know, as a retailer, we are the last chain in the whole value chain. But we know that the biggest impact that we have is, of course, in our supply chain. 95% of the impact that we cause as a retailer is related to the supply chain. to Erik de Winter and all the other 6,000 tier 1 suppliers. So he decided to invest in his own infrastructure. He went to the financial institution, to a bank, and he was able to show a long-term contract with Lidl. And based on that long-term contract, he could have access to loans. And 3 years ago, he decided to invest in rainwater captation and renewable energy. And he did that in such a way that today his energy bill has been reduced to €0 and his water bill is €0. So which means that he's now producing in a much more economically, financially interesting way. And on top, when you look at, well, the Belgian situation, even though everyone thinks that we are a very wet country, already 4 years in a row, we have seen a drought during the summer. We, the citizens, were asked not to irrigate anymore, the cars and the garden, but at a certain point, farmers were asked not to irrigate anymore. If a farmer cannot irrigate, he's dead. There was one farmer who didn't have any problem, Erik de Winter. Even the local television went to film his business. So he was able to continue because he had invested in 2 football large areas of rainwater captation. So he's producing very cheap, so he can sell to us in a cheap way. And we never had a problem of supply of tomatoes, while competitors had to look at each 4 corners of Europe to supply with tomatoes. So all I'm saying is that all our tomatoes today are sustainably grown via the means of Erik de Winter. They are sustainably, they are cheaper because he has been able to invest in sustainability. And on top, it's a local and it's a short chain because we work directly with Erik de Winter. But no one knows. Consumer doesn't know. Consumer buy cheap tomatoes at Lidl because they believe it's a discount and it's cheap, but at the same time, they don't know they are one of the most sustainable grown tomatoes. If you go to the next slide, and that's the second story, that's Ama Antu. Ama Antu, she's one of the 50 cacao farmers that is producing the cacao beans to produce the chocolate bar that she has in her left hand. Indeed, 2 years ago, I was asking our chocolate buyer, Tom de Putter, so he's our national Belgian chocolate buyer, and I asked Tom, can we put on the market a chocolate bar that is sustainably all the way, from the farmer up to the consumer, beyond the standards? Because indeed, we had already achieved our goal that all the chocolate was sustainably, with the standards, UTZ, you have in the chocolate sector, you have 3 standards, UTZ, Rainforest Alliance, and Fair Trade. And already since 2016, all the chocolate at Lidl Belgium, but everything from the chocolate bar up to the small pieces in the cereals, everything is sustainably certified. But we know that in the cacao sector, there is a huge challenge. Even a fair trade certified cacao farmer still lives in extreme poverty. So we asked, I asked Tom de Putter, the buyer, can we put on the market a chocolate bar that goes beyond fair trade, that is paying a premium on top, so that at least the cacao farmer can get out of extreme poverty? And his first reaction was, Philippe, keep on dreaming. It's not possible. I mean, we are little, we are a discounter, we are a huge company. We cannot just in Belgium decide to innovate and put on the market a new product like this one. I challenged back. We invited Fair Trade around the table. We invited another NGO, Ricolto, around the table. And in the end, we were 10 stakeholders around the table to think, to brainstorm, to see, is it possible to put on the market? 2 years later, here it is in my hands. A chocolate bar with an extra premium on top of fair trade, paid directly to the cacao farmers in Ghana. And when we started to develop this product, Lidl Netherlands, they approached me to say, well, you're putting something which is really interesting because it's genuinely sustainable beyond fair trade. We are interested. And before we realized, Lidl Netherlands had rolled it out on the market. And then suddenly Lidl International came. They said, we would like to coordinate this project. It's too beautiful to be handled only in 2 countries. And today, the chocolate bar is being sold in Germany, France, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in UK. And we hope that by the beginning of next year, all 30 countries where Lidl is active will sell the chocolate bar. And if you know that Lidl doesn't seem to be a big retailer, but at the European level, it's the largest retailer at the European level. With a turnover around 100 billion, it's number 4 worldwide. So instead of impacting 50 farmers, we have been able to impact 400 together with Netherlands, and now 1,000, and we hope to grow. But what is nice about this story is that we are working not really with circularity in our heads. It's about making the supply chain as sustainable as possible. And even with the highest standard that is out there, still it's not yet enough sustainably. So we can go beyond, we can go one step further, but it's still in a linear process. It's not about circularity and see how we can use waste streams, etc. It's about getting at least the supply chain as sustainably as possible. But what is fantastic about the story is we know from market research, but also from what we see in the stores, a consumer is not ready to buy sustainable products. Even though from research, we see a trend of a willingness to be more sustainable, a willingness to pay more, but when it comes to the act of doing, of buying, when the shopper is in a supermarket and doesn't have the time to decide, to look, to compare, then sustainability is not a driver. And that's why we at Lidl, we have decided not to give the choice anymore to the customer by making entire categories sustainably. 100% of the cocoa is sustainably according to one of the standards. All our bananas are sustainably according to one of the standards. 100% of the fish that we sell is sustainable according to MSC or ASC. The customer knows it? No. The customer doesn't know because the customer doesn't even know, doesn't even understand what's behind fair trade. Even though it's the most known brand, still a lot of customers have question marks about reputation, credibility. And on top, we, Lidl discounter, if we would say everything is sustainable, no one would believe it. So I'm not saying we shouldn't communicate, but the consumer is not ready yet to pay more for a sustainable product, let alone for a circular product. So I'm not saying that Lidl is not working on circularity, by far not. But we need, first of all, and that's the message I have, at least let's try as a retailer to make our supply chain as sustainably as possible. And at the same time, we are experimenting with a circular store from the design phase. How can we build a supermarket which is circular? Which means that at the end of life of that building, we can reuse bits and pieces. But there is no architect in Belgium that is ready to sign a contract with us to develop a plan for a real circular building. So it's really at the beginning. Circular packages, circular products, it's the same. So we are really at the beginning of circularity, even though we hear a lot of good examples, but really to have that impact at scale, I would say for a retailer, let's first focus to get the supply chains where 95% of our impact plays, to get them as sustainably as possible, get them to the customer who doesn't feel anymore the difference between paying more or paying less. Look at the tomatoes from the last slide. A sustainable tomato is a cheaper tomato, so which means sustainability is not more expensive. Thank you.
No, thank to you, Philippe. I think it was really amazing presentation, and I like how you deliver this strong message and so clear. Like the consumers is not yet ready to pay more for a circular or sustainable product. So we work with our suppliers to make sure that all the products are sustainable. This is very, very important. It's an extreme form of nudging, how you wrote in an article that I had the pleasure to read, and I think is a very interesting approach. So almost choosing of not communicating circularity, not communicating sustainability, but let's talk about the real sustainability of the supply chain, and let's make sure that all our products go beyond the minimum standards. So I think this is a very, very interesting example that you brought to us today. Now I also would like to move to the Q&A that we have prepared before opening up to the participants. I see that some questions are starting to pop up, so please continue to send them over. But I also have two follow-up questions with our panelists. So the first question that I would like to ask you is the same I already asked to Nicola. So what are your main challenges in communicating sustainability and circularity to consumers, and how to overcome them? Maybe shall we stick to the same order we had before? So first we hear from Yves, and then Philippe, you can add.
Well, for our product and services, the main difficulty is to have our customer understand that the second-hand telephone is as good as a new one, that probably doesn't need so much functionality in a telephone, and that it doesn't use it. And it seems that I'm saying that I'm working against the business model of the company, which is not true. I mean, serving better our customers is always a good deed for the company.
Good. And Philippe, do you want to take the floor instead of this question? What was the main challenge on your side?
So the main challenge to communicate about circularity, sustainability?
Correct, yes.
For a good communication, you need a credible sender, a credible message, and a receiver, right? So in this case, we are a sender. We are a smart discounter. That's already a challenge. As a discounter, sending a message about our product or top sustainable, that's a challenge. So we know that we need to focus on the message itself. But here within the retail, we see a huge competition. And the retail sector is a highly competitive sector. So everyone is sending out hundreds of messages, from CO2 neutral to 100% sustainable to this, everything. And in all that messages, you see a lot of wrong, false claims. And sometimes from the highest reputed companies. So it's very difficult for a customer, for a consumer to really understand and to really get, well, okay, what is the right message? What is correct? What can I believe? What can I use? That's already one biggest challenge. But the other challenge is about sustainability, let alone circularity. But sustainability is so complex. I mean, just look at the discussion between plastic and paper. Plastic packaging is not worse than a paper packaging. On the contrary, but the perception is that plastic is a horrible material. But when you just look at the environmental footprint, a plastic package has a footprint which is maybe 10 times less, even though the paper and the cardboard has been recycled several times. So in the terms of perception, it's very difficult to explain in a simple way why a product is really sustainable and why the consumer could pay 5 cents, 10 cents more on that specific product if it is more expensive. So that's the challenge. It's a challenge about the one who send out the message, but also the challenge that sustainability is a very complex topic, because it's not black and white where you can just say energy consumption, AAA for that refrigerator, or a label C. That's easy because that's just one KPI that is being measured, and the kilowatt hours, okay, fine. But yeah, sustainability, let alone circularity, is much more challenging. And that's why we decided We're not going, I mean, we will communicate, of course, and we will do efforts to explain and to explain the different standards, etc. But at the same time, we're not waiting until the customers asks us to be more sustainable. We're not waiting. We just bring entire food categories from one day to the other. We prepare and then we roll out. I mean, we're not there yet, of course. There are many food categories where there's still so much work to do, but at least we have now several food categories completely 100% sustainable, where the customer doesn't need to be challenged. Okay, what shall I do? €5 for a sustainable or 4 for a non-sustainable? No, just.
Yes, and I feel a sort of urgency from your words. Like we need to we need to act fast, we need to act now, so we cannot really wait for a change in consumers' perspectives and perception.
Yeah, indeed, and that's also one of the comments I see. Luckily, there we see a positive trend amongst the youth. Yes, and I'm really happy. I have 3 boys at that age, so we do see a positive trend. But that trend is so small. It's small and it's slow. When it goes to the buying, it is very slow. And that's why we say, okay, there is, I mean, if you just look at the progress made by the SDGs, it's just too slow. I mean, if we have the ambition to remain within the boundaries of one planet by 2030, 2040, we need to go much faster.
Good. Yves, I saw that you were trying to raise your hand.
You just said what I wanted to say. I mean, there is small hopes within our customers, the young generation, of course, but also the behavior of regular customers. They are still a little bit schizophrenic because intellectually they want to go for a sustainable product. And when they are in front of the buying, act, they do not behave the way they think. But I mean, it's coming from far. So I agree, it needs to be a lot faster than that, but there are some hopes, really.
Yes, and this ties in nicely with the next question I had prepared for you, that was about the trends. So do you see a positive trend? Do you see your customers changing? And what would make them accelerate potentially this change? Which consequences does this have on your strategy?
Okay, I take the first answer.
Yes.
And let me be on my market so that you will have 2 different answers on 2 different markets. There is the venture of a new telephone maker, which is called Fairphone. Fairphone is a telephone maker who's doing telephones that you can dismantle, and you can change pieces, you can change the battery, you can change the screen, you can change everything. And it took a long time, but we did put them. I'm not going to, to serve the Fairphone as a company, but to serve the example, really. And the way we experienced it is that we did provide those telephones in our shops. And the customers will come in, and while being on the queue, they will take the telephone and play with it. Remove the screen, remove the battery, put back the camera, etc., etc. And they discover a completely new world, meaning that you don't have to have a telephone which is completely sealed, that you cannot move, that every time you have a small defect, you change telephones, which is the worst thing that can happen. So little by little, things are evolving, and then that's how we could settle those new circular economy services like the repair shop and the second-hand market. Okay, so that's really what we are seeing. And then there is a discussion about going one step after the other to a new generation of products. Okay, we are selling them because if I get to the general demand of the market, we need to open our bandwidths. We need to go to the next generation. Otherwise, we will saturate. I mean, as I said during the COVID experience, we almost saturated with the existing technology. So we need to go and expand to a new technology. But what we are seeing is that customers are trying to be as reasonable as it is possible in terms of use of technology. The more and more, and we are accompanying them, which just sounds strange for telco who is selling bandwidths, but we're still accompanying them to make a reasonable use of our technologies. And this is really working. I mean, you all know the story of this person who has the last telephone with I always take example with telephones because I mean people will understand better. But I would have exactly the same example on the IT or on the network area. But you always have this example of a person who is having the last version of a telephone and who's using maybe 1/10 of the capacity of the telephone. And this is what we need to educate our customers to be able to choose the device that they really need.
Yes, I agree. And I think in this we can take from this a positive trend. So this also replies to one of the comments in the chat that was saying especially younger consumers tend to pay more attention to fair trade and sustainability. Yes, as you said, it's a journey. It's a journey and companies need to accompany the customers in this transition. So at least a positive signs for the future, at least for your sector. But now I'm really curious to ask to the other sector, for the retailers. Philippe, what do you think? Do you see an evolution? Do you see a positive trend or not really on this topic?
Let me give another example. Animal Rights, which is an NGO fighting for better animal welfare. In Belgium, they managed to get inside with a hidden camera to get inside a slaughterhouse from pigs. And they shooted horrible images. We were lucky it was not in our supply chain, but it could have been in our supply chain, okay? Those images were shown on television prime time last year. Everyone in Belgium was shouting, like was yelling. It was a horror. It was a scandal. And what we saw is that we saw the sale figures of pork meat on Monday slowing down, Tuesday decreasing. On Wednesday it was stabilizing. Thursday it was again going up. Friday going up, and Saturday, guess what? Inconvenient truth. I know it's not okay, but we have a barbecue with the family, spare ribs on the menu. So what we have seen is that even though we are shocked by those images, and by seeing those images, everyone from young to old said, this is not possible. I'm not going to buy meat anymore or pork or whatever. That's a memory. It only takes 48 hours. That's for the Belgium, and that's the average Belgium memories go not more than 48 hours, because after 48, I don't know what, your personal feeling goes beyond, and then suddenly, yeah, inconvenient truth. Philippe, I know it's not okay, but we have a barbecue. Just okay, that's the way we work. So I see a positive trend, what I said, and I'm happy to see that. And for some specific topic, we see a positive trend in the youth, for others, elderly. But for instance, the meat consumption, we know that meat has a huge impact on our resources, on our ecosystems. But we don't see more carnivores moving to vegetarian in the youth or in the elderly. I mean, I see around me young people eating meat. So it's not, and even though they were shocked by the images, still. So all I'm saying is, again, we see that when it comes to the food habits are so strong. It is very difficult to change, and you need game changer from Netflix, and you need a lot of, very impressive movies and documentaries to be able to do a slight change. And that's why at Lidl we said, okay, you know what? No more pork meat in a conventional way. We're going to increase everything with one big step. Beter Leven, which is then, in this case, a standard on animal welfare, controlling the slaughterhouses, giving more space, blah, blah, blah. So everything goes one step, I mean, a big step, because we pay a premium. We pay yearly 3 billion euros to all the 80 pig farmers in Flanders. No one knows, because no one knows the beter leven standards. And if we would explain, they would say, yeah, you're right. But we do that. We just do it. We communicate. We have some videos, but at least people who buy it, they know slaughterhouse, yes, secured, but still, I mean, still the pork meat, your cutlet, your spare ribs still have a huge impact. Nothing circular. It is improved in terms of animal welfare and a little bit in terms of sustainability. The soy which is in is sustainable, etc. But waiting until there is really a transformational change in food habits, reducing by half the meat consumption, then it's too late.
I see. Thank you very much, Philip. I see indeed I think consumers' choices are very complex. That maybe is the conclusion from this. Like, there are many drivers under consumer choices. Sustainability is one of them. Probably is more and more one of them, is on the rises, but is not the only one. So there are times where tradition, culture, convenience, affordability, all these factors come and enter into play. And that's why company can intervene in these factors in order to offer more sustainable products overall. I think if I had to make probably a conclusive remark on this discussion, I think would be this on my side. Would you agree on this, or did I miss anything important from our discussion? Philip, feel free to add your conclusive message in case I haven't captured it.
No, that's fine.
That's fine with me too. Good conclusion, Elisa.
Good. Then I think I would like to thank all of you for your intervention, for your presentation. There are a few other comments in the chat that we haven't addressed. One that I really liked and that I will take with me is, why are we always presenting circular sustainable products as more expensive? This is a whole webinar in itself. And here at CSR Europe, we have done a few events, a few workshops only on this, on the economic aspect of circularity, on the hidden cost. Is it more expensive? Is it not more expensive? So just to say that I haven't ignored that message, but it's a very broad topic, and I wish we had another hour to delve deep into that element of the cost of circularity. But we will get back. We will definitely get back to it. Now, if I can ask to all us to get back to my presentation, I will have to conclude due to the time constraint. But before leaving you, I would like to remind you about the next events that will take place in the framework of the European SDG Summit. So, as I said at the beginning, circular economy is one of our main focus areas, and this is reflected in the program of the European SDG Summit. So as you might know, the summit is made of 3 big blocks every day of the week, this week. So every morning we will start with a plenary session. The plenary session is with very high-level speakers, and we have one plenary session that will focus entirely on circular economy. This will be this Wednesday from 11:30 to 1 Brussels time. This conference is done in collaboration with GSTIC 2020, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with GSTIC. GSTIC is a very big conference that takes place every year about technology and how technology can help to achieve the SDGs. This year we decided to partner up with them. So this event on Wednesday will talk about how to better integrate the circular economy agenda and the digital agenda. So it's a very interesting event, and I suggest you and recommend you to attend as well. You can do it through our platform as you did today for this event. Then in the afternoon, from 1:30 to 2:30 Brussels time, we always have events that are organized by our national partners organization. And many of them are about circular economy. So here in the slide, I hope you can see, I hope it's big enough. You can see a few of these events and their topics. So we will have food waste, we will have right to repair, circular action group, single-use plastics. So many hot topics in the circular economy world that you can attend, of course. So you are welcomed and suggested to register as well. And then finally, my last event, so it will be again me. It will be on Wednesday from 3:30 to 5 as of today. Hopefully we will not start late on Wednesday as well. But it will be about value chain collaboration to enable the circular economy. So we will look at how partnerships among companies and among companies and civil society are essential to move forward in the transition to circular economy. So I hope this is just an overview. Of course, feel free to explore further the program. As you know, we have 55 events in 1 week, so I might have forgot a few events. If I did, I apologize already to the organizers. I didn't want to do that. So, but please feel free to explore the agenda. I'm sure you will find interesting events on this topic. This said, this is it. This is all from my side. I would like to thank again all of our speakers, so Nicola, Yves, and Philippe. Thank you so much for the very rich contribution. I think you really allowed us to have a very interesting discussion. Thank you also to all our participants. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having been with us. And you can, of course, reach out to me with further questions and comments at my email address, ec@csreurope.com. This said, .org, sorry, I see now, I made a mistake. You have my email address there. This said, I thank you all and I wish you all a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.